Welcome back to What the Function. And in this section, we're going to take a look at some verbal expressions that are going to be a little more complex. And that it won't be just simply adding two things or subtracting two things or multiplying two things or dividing two things. There's usually going to be three or more things going on. And the word I want to bring to this discussion is something that was popular when I was a bit younger. When I was your age, that's going back more than 30 years, we often memorized our friends' phone numbers because we didn't have cell phones and we didn't want to keep them written down on something, so we would actually memorize all their 7 digits. So when I think back to the number that I had as a kid, that phone number was 883-2949, and it's a number that I still remember after more than 40 years. So you'll notice here that I just don't write all 7 digits together. I actually break it up into 3 digits and I break it up into another 4 digits. And what we call this in education, this is a process we call chunking. And chunking allows us to break up large sets of information and break it down into smaller components so that when we're processing the information, we don't have to try to memorize or perform everything all at once. We simply break it up into smaller bits that are going to be easier to digest. So what we're going to do is when we look at the following examples that are included on the paper here, we're going to begin by reading each of these and see if we can divide this up through the process of looking for addition and subtraction. So words that indicate either addition or subtraction are going to be the words which help us to chunk the problem into more digestible parts. And we'll take a look at how that's going to go. Okay, let's just take a look at the first example and let's see what we could do with this. The first example says 8 more than 1/4 of D. So hopefully when people look at the word more than, they recognize that's going to be a plus symbol. Not only is it going to be a plus symbol, but we have a flip word. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a plus sign. And we're going to take a look at each chunk of this sentence before the plus and after the plus. Now, more than we know it's a flip. So if we're looking at the word 8 here, what should be first, that's going to be last. So the only thing before that at the beginning is going to be an 8. But because of more than, we're going to go ahead and we're going to flip that around. Take a look at what's on the other side of more than. It says 1/4 of D. So now we're only really considering what 1/4 of D is. So hopefully you look at this, you say 1/4 looks like this. Of is multiplication, and that's going to be 1/4 times D. So we're going to write this as 1/4 D. And now we have the algebraic expression 1/4 D plus 8 as a correct algebraic expression of 8 more than 1/4 of D. Let's take a look at another word, or another phrase that involves another flip word, 5 less than. So we talked about the word than in the previous video being a flip word, and hopefully you know that less than, that's going to be another flip word, and that's going to be a symbol for subtraction. So let's take a look at what's here. To the left of that is just 5. Now again, 5 is not going to go first because we're flipping it, it's going to go at the end. So we're going to write this as a 5 on the other side. What's to the right of this? Twice a number. In the previous video, you recall that we talked about twice being 2 times. In this case, the number is going to be x, so it's going to be 2 times x or just 2x. So this is going to be 2x minus 5. Feel free to pause the video, go ahead and replay any of these as you need to. Let's take a look at the next one. 7 increased by. So anytime we find a word dealing with addition and subtraction, when we're looking at writing a verbal expression into an algebraic expression. I'll say that again. Anytime you're trying to write a verbal expression into an algebraic expression, we're going to try to find words, and it won't be in all of them, but we're going to try to find words that either indicate addition or subtraction so that we could chunk the problem, the verbal expression, into 2 parts to help us form a proper algebraic expression. So if this is increased by, I know there's going to be some addition going on here, but let's see, I'm going to say this is going to be 7 here, so I'm going to write this out as 7. Increased by what? the product of two numbers. Now, it doesn't say what these two numbers are, but you may assume that the numbers are, I would say that they're probably different. So if they're going to be the product of two numbers, well, what's the product of two numbers? I'll just maybe say x times y, or I will just write it as x, y. But it's 7 increased by the product of these two numbers. Okay, let's take a look at number 4. If we look at number 4, we'll find in this one, no words indicate addition or subtraction. That being the case, it's going to be similar to some of the simpler problems we were doing in the previous video. So it's going to be 1/2. That's 1/2 of is multiplication, so you want to put a dot above that, some number. Now, you can use something else other than x. Some number, let's just say that some number is going to be n. And I'll go ahead and put 1/2 times n. And another way I could write that more simply is just 1/2 n. That's how we're usually going to work with it. I'm going to go ahead and push this up now. If for some reason you don't get this down, or maybe this information you still want to retain from above, just go ahead and play the video back, and then you can get the information you're missing. Let's take a look at some other problems here. A number m plus 6 times x. Let's highlight the plus now. The sum of m and x. Now I'm going to put the sum here. 34 divided by x. No plus, no minus. The quotient of two numbers subtracted from 20. Ooh, okay, let's take a look at what that's going to be, because there's the word subtracted from. So we're basically looking for subtraction and addition phrases. The product of 6 and 3 less than the number. Okay, that one's going to be a tricky one, but we'll tackle that here in a bit. And then finally, we're going to take a look at twice the sum of a number and 8. So let's see what all of this is going to look like. Excuse me. We have a number m plus 6 times n. Plus is not a flip word. I'm just going to go ahead and put the plus sign down. I'm going to take a look at what's at the left. What's at the left? A number m. So they give us the variable that's being used here. Again, once we get to the plus, what's after that? 6 times n. So if you think about how to write 6 times n, that's going to be 6n. And I'm going to put that here, 6n. And now we have the correct algebraic expression for that verbal expression. Number 6, the sum of m and n. So I'm going to introduce something to this here that's going to help us a little later. Now, you don't always have to put this, but this will help for what we're going to do in a bit here. The sum of m and n, I'm going to put a parenthesis around this, because what I want to do is try to capture the fact that I'm adding two things together. What are they? M and n. So it's going to be m plus n. 34 divided by x. So you can write this as 34 divided by x. Or you can write this, and this is the one you're more likely to use, 34 over x. Number 8 is going to be the quotient of two numbers subtracted from 20. The quotient of two numbers subtracted from 20. Remember, from. Okay? When you think from or than, these are both 4-letter words. You want to think of another 4-letter word. That's going to be flip. So my suggestion is first just get the operation down, the subtraction or the addition operation. Since you see 20 appears last, here it's going to appear first. So we take a look at what's after subtracted from. It's 20. Now let's take a look at what's before subtracted from. The quotient of two numbers. So I might say that those two numbers are going to be a and b. And since it's quotient, we're looking at division. So it's going to be a over b. And it's going to be a over 20 minus a over b, or the quotient of two numbers subtracted from 20. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So it says the product of 6 and 3 less than the number. So the product of, so we're asked to multiply two things together. We're asked to multiply two things together. I'm going to go ahead and put that down. So the product of. Okay. 6 and, okay, so the first one is what? First one is 6. and then it says 3 less than the number, okay? So here is where that is going to go, and then 3 less than the number, okay? So now we have this subtraction sign being introduced, and there are two quantities we're looking to multiply. This quantity in this second part of 6, in the second part of 3 less than the number, this is going to be less than. What is less than? It's a flip word. So that 3 is going to go here, and then the number, we'll just call that x. It'll be x minus 3. But it's a product of this and this. But we can't write it simply like this. We need to include parentheses around that. So it's a product of 6 and 3 less than the number. So if you remember this, you're probably going to be looking at a little distribution of this here if you were to try to work this out. But at this point, this is what they're looking for. If you want to try this last one, I recommend stopping the video before I go over it and see if you get the right answer. But again, this is another tricky one because it's twice the sum of, okay? The sum of a number and 8. So we know that twice is going to be 2 times, and that says the sum. So it's going to be the sum of two things, a number and 8. So this is the sum of a number and 8, and we're multiplying it by 2 times. So this is going to be 2 times the sum of a number plus 8. Now here I included the multiplication symbol. Normally we just go ahead and write this in a cleaner version as 6 times x minus 3. If you have any questions about how to get the answers to these questions, please talk to your teacher and get further clarification in class. Thank you.